Good morning, good afternoon, or good middle of the night. If you're one of our commentators joining us this evening, this is the Modern Streamers League. Thank you to our league host for welcoming me back in after some time away. I'm Sean Seacrease, and this is the Modern Streamers League. Joined tonight by Mike Goldenberg, also by Visquis, Ryan Steiner, and by the Hall of Famer himself, who stayed up late into the wee hours of the night in France, Gabriel Nassif. You know him as Yellow Hat when you see him streaming online, and if you see him in the top 8 at Pro Tours, now Mythic Championships, well, he's become a familiar face to all of us. Gentlemen, welcome to Week 7 of the Modern Streamers League. Gab, let's start with you. With Modern undergoing so many changes recently, what do you expect the new look of the format to be?
Kind of a bit of what we already knew right before Hogak. I was expecting it to go back to that format, and it somehow or somewhat has. But I guess there's a few new decks too that weren't around for like the last big tournament before Hogak was the London Mythic Championship, and I expected a lot of that. But you've got a Neoform that's new, the Urza deck that's new. Neoform's not doing so good, but the Urza deck's pretty good, and it's been fun. I've been mostly playing just my Soul Herder deck. That's really fun and kind of good. But you've seen John do well this weekend. I think past weekend the MCQs I saw Jaunt 1-1. I saw the Urza deck 1-1. Niv Mizzet won the online PTQ. Yeah. So it's pretty cool. It's a bit kind of a lot of grindy decks. I feel it's been fun anyways.
Well, I feel like we're all under a lot more acute pressure this week to perform now that we have Gabe Nassif with us here on the Modern Streamers League, a man who's been performing well and has come back to the broadcast side of it. Visquis, Ryan Steiner, he joins us. Hope you're safe. I know there's been severe weather where you're at in the southeast part of the United States. Thanks for taking time and joining us tonight. It's been fun to watch you so far with Team Fire. What's your team looking to do here in the second season, so to speak, after coming up short 26-24 in the first half?
Well, we're definitely looking to take this league by storm. We're wanting to not lose any more matches, to be honest with you, and we don't want to give up any more that we already have. I can definitely tell you we buckled down this next coming this next coming season, the next coming 3 weeks that we have coming up with our new decks, and we're bringing out the fire this time around.
I like the foreshadowing of you're looking to come out in a storm and fire, because we're going to see Caleb Scherer play first tonight for Team Fire, and he hasn't strayed far from the deck that we saw in Season 1, and that's his Storm deck. He's going to be matched up against the only undefeated player in the Modern Streamers League, and that's our own. You can flex right now because you might not be able to in about 20 Maybe minutes. Not. Mike Goldenberg, you're getting away from a deck that you were known for, that you played in the first half of the season. You played a devoted Druid combo shell. You were using Karn. You were using some of the more innovative tactics that shell has been experimenting with. You went as far away from that, I think, as you philosophically can, drawing from some of the legacy format from about 5-6 years ago, a modern version of DeadGuy Ale, which is a white-black card advantage, hand disruption deck. Why make the leap to this?
Well, part of it is some people at my local game store said that I'm the combo guy. And as a longtime mid-range player who really started getting better at Modern when I was playing Tarmogoyf Thoughtseize decks, I don't classify myself as a combo player. So when I became known as the combo guy, I was like, no. So I was like, absolutely zero combos. I'm going to get as far from a combo deck as I can, and that's why I'm playing a deck that cannot win turn 3, cannot win turn 4. I think my fastest draw can win turn 6. This is the farthest thing I can get from a combo deck. That is why I am on it.
I don't know about that. Stoneforge Mystic fetches both Batterskull and Sword of Fire and Ice. That's a combo, Mike, so we're going to watch and just see how effective that is for you against Caleb Scherer here this evening. Our two teams still playing for charity. Team Fire, playing to end human trafficking worldwide. You can help them by donating just underneath our cast here this evening. As you follow along, you can help them fund A21, which seeks to end human trafficking around the globe. And Team Ice, playing for the Cancer Research Institute, looking to end all forms of cancer all around the world. Two great charities and two great teams jumping into Week 7 after a 5-5 tie last week. Who will take the lead here in Season 2? It's time to kick off Night 1 of Week 7 on the Modern Streamers League.
So here we have the forecast of doom. Our first match is myself against Caleb Scherer on Storm. Now, Caleb Scherer, I've played against him 3 times. He's beaten me all 3. So this is a little rough for me, but luckily I actually have a decent matchup here thanks to all the hand disruption. My Orzhov mid-range deck, my DeadGuy, Modern DeadGuy Ale deck, is looking to do turn 1 Thoughtseize, turn 2 Dark Confidant, turn 3 Liliana of the Veil, and kind of take off the game from there. However, because my deck is so slow, Caleb can still eventually win anyways, especially with his Pyromancer Ascension coming out of the sideboard. Now, noticing that Caleb does not have any Empty the Warrens main board means that I think I'm a little bit stronger game 1. But post-board, if he chooses to bring those in, I definitely have to bring in my Plague Engineers, Naming Goblin, or else I will get completely blown out of the water by 14 1/1 goblins, which will completely flood the board. I think I am slightly favored in this matchup, but I don't think it's by a lot. So let's see how this all plays out. We'll be going live to you guys in the booth in just a moment. Here we go.
Welcome to round 1 here in Week 7. Sean Seacrease joined by the Hall of Famer Gabriel Nassif. You know him as Yellow Hat. And interesting to me right off the bat, Gabe, is that the construction of one-drop hand removal spells that we see SaintDoom has chosen. He's decided to go 4 Inquisition and 2 Thoughtseize. That gives him 6 total. But for a lot of years in Modern, the exact ratio of those 2 cards has been up for debate. Is the format compressed enough that you think he's made the right choice, erring in favor of Inquisition, which doesn't cost him life, as opposed to Thoughtseize?
Yeah, I think I would max out on Inquisition before I did on Thoughtseize. I've actually played a bit of White Black before Stoneforge and a bit was, and I kind of like almost playing 8 discard spells in that deck because you really just want to go. Your deck's a bit like fair and a bit slow, and you really want that turn 1 discard spell. I think Mike was being a bit maybe modest. I think he should have a good matchup. I wonder if he picked that deck expecting to maybe face Storm tonight. We know Caleb loves his Storm deck. And I think he's in a good shape. You saw, for instance, he's playing 4 Fatal Push and no Path to Exile, which is really great, specifically in the Storm matchup, since you're not giving them the land. I think the way the game's going to play out is Mike, especially game 1, needs to disrupt him and try and kill him, and Caleb's going to kind of get his hand ripped apart, and he's going to have to try and make his land drops and just win with Past in Flames, because I don't think Mike can really interact very well with a Past in Flames, maybe Tide Hollow Scholar, but yeah, should be really I don't know, I think it's going to be really tough for Caleb to win this match.
Well, right now, if you're the Black-White Mystic deck, you'll hear us refer to it as DeadGuy Ale. It was a popular title for a very similar deck in Legacy 5-6 years ago. He gets the 2 of Thoughtseize to lead things off. The 2 Thoughtseize, the 4 Inquisition of Kozilek, and then the 4 Tide Hollow Scholar. This is one from quite some time ago. If you're not familiar with it, it is a bear, a 2-drop 2/2 that also has the Thoughtseize effect until it's removed from play. So that does give him 4 additional ways to disrupt Caleb Scherer here in game 1 for sort of 10 total. It'll be interesting in this match, I think, because you have Dark Confidant, which may stick around longer than in some matches with decks with heavier removal or decks that play Ren in 6. That 1 toughness seems like such a liability in this format now. But 4 Dark Confidant for Goldenberg, for TheSaintDoom in this matchup. And here we see the Tide Hollow Sculler aforementioned. It'll be interesting, Gabriel Nassif, if that we in fact see the Dark Confidant sort of return to the power levels that we've seen it in the past, because this Storm deck, not that many ways to interact with it if it hits the board.
No, Dark Confidant is definitely what you're looking for. Turn 1 discard, turn 2 Dark Confidant. This is also reasonable. Mike's hoping for a Liliana right now. He took the Grape Shot to not just lose his color to Odd plus Grape Shot. Interestingly, Sculler is really good against Past in Flames because it means it doesn't hit the yard and it's just exiled, but kind of a close to perfect draw for Mike, but Caleb managed to find the key remand here.
How much time does that remand actually buy him?
Honestly, it's potentially game-winning because even if Liliana comes down for Mike, you need to kind of... Like, Caleb doesn't care as much as long as he has a Past in Flames and he's making his land drops. Liliana's not the end all be all until it ultimates. So I think Caleb is in a decent spot actually, despite it not looking so great because of unanswered Liliana. I think Caleb might be able to pull this one off. We'll see. Kind of depends what Mike's follow up is here.
And you mentioned the Past in Flames being important with the Liliana out. We now know Caleb Scherer has one of the 2 in the main already in his hand. So this is going to give him really some options as he thinks about this. Are you thinking about dumping the Past in Flames, the ritual? He goes for the Past in Flames. Of course, it can be activated cast from the yard.
Yeah, he only needs to cast it once. And the good thing about discarding it now is that if Mike top decks a Scholar, you can't take it anymore. It's like protected in some ways in the graveyard. And Caleb drew potentially the best card he could draw. There's obviously a chance for a fatal push on Mike's side, but he's gonna go for it here. And
set up the Baral on the previous turns, and it looks like he's gonna have, with that Past in Flames, the opportunity to generate quite the mana / card rolling venue here.
Yeah, he's trying to figure out if he can afford to cast Grape Shot first. He's maybe thinking, is Mike somehow slow rolling the Fatal Push? I doubt it. I feel like if Mike had Fatal Push, he would probably cast it in response to the Ritual. Yeah, does the math. Going to play the Grape Shot once before flashing back Past in Flames. Oh, get it. Yeah, so yeah. It looks like game 1's going to go to Caleb despite the discard, Scholar, Liliana draw. Just not good enough. Caleb found what he needed, it looks like.
Yeah, and rather than just trying to go right to the dome and then flash back and finish it off, we see him really just clearing the board so that he can go almost for the mega hand, it would appear, next turn. There's the drawn Fatal Push. And now we see the Dark Confidant, but this may be too little too late.
Yeah, we'll see. Actually, I was like, I guess my math was way up. He was probably just short on mana and decided to, like, as you say, just clear the board by himself, 2-3 more turns, and then Past in Flames in the yard if he needs, he needs like a 2-drop or a land. Sort of Fire and Ice interesting for Mike. That's like increased clock. It's like a 2-turn clock now.
6 damage a turn if he equips it next turn. 4 from the Dark Confidant, and then 2 from the trigger on the Sword of Fire and Ice, which interestingly would also kill off the Goblin Electromancer that Caleb just drew. So I think Caleb's doing some quick mana calculations right now. Is he that far from going for the win out of the yard via the Past in Flames? Is he maybe missing a ritual where he can capitalize on the mana as he doesn't have a cost reducer on the board?
Yeah, he needs a ritual. Electromancer was 2. He could just flash back the Past in Flames with nothing else. And yeah, I guess I guess it looked good for a second for Caleb, but I guess my math was off, and he didn't have the win, and now I think he's actually drawing dead. He went from like being in a decent spot to drawing dead in 2 turns. Confident plus Sword of Fire and Ice.
I wonder if a land here would actually help, because you can get the ritual chain going. Baral's going to give him a cost reducer, but I don't think that's going to be enough, because he needs to pay the initial cost to cast Past in Flames, and there's the concession from Scherer. Game 1 goes to the black-white Mystic deck, and TheSaintDoom takes one more step towards almost incomprehensible 7-0 in this league. This league that's all about parity. He is the statistical outlier at the one undefeated player coming into Week 7. Sean Seacrease, along with Yellow Hat himself, Gabriel Nassif, joining us. It's the middle of the night for you, so what's in the glass? I saw you just going water. You don't have
just
anything?
Water, yeah. I grabbed a banana before. No, I had my coffee. I was streaming a bit. I was streaming some vintage. I had a coffee before the stream, so I should be good.
What formats have you been spending your time playing lately? I've been seeing you mess with Soul Sisters a bit in Modern. Have you played any Standard, Legacy, Vintage? What's been occupying your time lately when you get a chance to play?
Yeah, a lot of Modern. Soul Herder has been a ton of fun, and playing a bit of Vintage this week. There's a Vintage playoff next weekend, so I'm practicing. I never play Vintage, or very rarely, so I'm practicing a bit. I'm also going to be playing Phantom Legends on Thursday, so I'm going to play a bit of Standard, a bit of everything, honestly. Magic's pretty, I don't know, I'm having a lot of fun right now. So I wish I had more time to play more Magic, kind of.
Give us a sneak peek into Thursday. Have you announced what you're going to be playing yet? What's your expectation heading into fandom on Twitch?
Not really. I need to talk to my MPL buddies, I guess. Looks like the Cathis combo deck is just like unstoppable in Standard, so I'm hoping... I usually don't like to play the like quote unquote best deck, so I'm hoping I can play something else. But I've also never played the deck, so I would need to get a bit familiar with it. So we'll see.
Both these players very familiar with their decks. Caleb, Scherer on Storm. We're seeing Team Fire's perspective on the matches this week. For the most part, we will see something a little bit different later tonight, and we'll explain that when we get there. But as Caleb sideboarded, we watched what he sideboarded. We also heard Mike Goldenberg give us his own forecast of doom, saying that he was going to have to bring in ways to deal with the potential empty the Warrens plays from Caleb post-board. So both players aware of their sideboarding strategy here heading into Game 2, and we see Caleb Scherer with the keep, and he's going to set up a quick look with a sleight of hand here early on turn 1.
Yeah, pretty grindy hand for Caleb. Pieces of the puzzle good against the discard spells, etc. But it's gotta be tough for Caleb. I think Game 1 is his best shot. Honestly, I think he's an even bigger underdog after sideboard. If I saw correctly, I think Mike has Plague Engineer for the empty plan. He has 2 copies of Kambal, which is a pretty strong card. He has, I think, some Graveyard Hate too.
So 2 of the best, and along with 2 Surgical Extraction.
Yeah.
He's got an easy sort of 8-card package that he can bring in here, and that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot, but I'm not even sure what he boards out, because his main deck's kind of already really good. Maybe Lingering Souls is a bit mopey in the matchup. Mm-hmm. But if I had to guess, I would say Mike had probably like issues even finding out cards he wants to board out.
Well, if he wins the match, we'll ask him about it in the post-match analysis, but we don't talk to losers here on Modern Streamers League. So if Caleb comes back, we're not going to ask SaintDoom any questions about his strategy in this one.
I was thinking we're going to be talking SaintDoom. I didn't catch exactly how Caleb sideboarded. I wonder if he... As a Storm player, do you ever board out all your creatures against a Fatal Push deck, for instance?
We'll have to see as Caleb sits up.
Yeah, it looks like... Oh, Mike discarded to hand size. Wow.
So we see TheSaintDoom, Mike Goldenberg, on just 1 land right now, and that's giving Caleb Scherer some room to operate. We see the triple Manamorphoses. That's going to make him, right now, mana neutral as he digs deep into his deck, but... Since he's under absolutely no pressure, Gabriel Nassif with us this evening here on the Modern Streamers League. Gabe, it looks like he's just going to continue to sculpt his hand and look for the perfect hand as his opponent has stumbled on mana and has no pressure on board.
Yeah, he should be able to. I mean, I can't imagine. The matchup is bad, but I don't think it's bad enough that he's going to lose if Mike misses his first two or discard his two hand size twice. It seems like Mike did not mulligan, right? It's like 1/2 the land plus 7. That's 10 cards. He just kept the one lander, no turn one discard spell on the draw. I'm kind of surprised, honestly.
Well, if he does, I mentioned if he does go on to lose, maybe we'll ask him about that. Break the rules a little bit on Modern Streamers League. But Caleb Scherer for Team Fire just taking his time and sculpting away. It has to feel good when you know that you have essentially 3 mana neutral draws with Manamorphose in your hand right now. And this is, I mean, is he just relaxed to the point that he's going to wait for a 5th land drop and set up gifts?
Yeah, it looks like he's going to cast Gift. I think he's probably considering Surgical Extraction, trying to figure out how to not get wrecked by that card. I'm sure he has a ton. I mean, he's the Storm player. I'm sure he knows exactly how to not get owned by Surgical Extraction in that spot. So I've never played much Storm. I'm just gonna kind of watching and assuming whatever Caleb does is the right move, you know?
Well, I think that with possible hands that SaintDoom could have kept on one land, that Caleb Scherer may have wanted to go for it earlier. This, to me, would seem to scream, I have a Rest in Peace in hand, and I'm getting ready to slam it down when I find a second mana. Maybe Caleb has that on his radar now because he's going to go for the Gifts Ungiven, look for probably a cost reducer with the triple Manamorphose in his hand because that'll act like a ritual all on its own.
Yeah, he might do that. How many Rest in Peace 2 in the sideboard of Mike's deck?
Yeah, that's all he has access to.
So it's interesting. He has he brought in Pyromancer Ascension despite knowing Mike has 2 Rest in Peace. I feel like that's almost a testament to maybe how bad he thinks the matchup is for him. He feels that he needs to just hope he draws. Pyromancer is probably either his best card or a complete break, obviously. We see it doesn't even look like Caleb brought in a bounce spell in this matchup to potentially get rid of a Rest in Peace, unless there's already a repeal in the graveyard. That's possible, but looks like he Pyromancer Ascension. Obviously, Mike cannot give him that. He even knows about Caleb's hand, so Mike gave him Grape Shot and not a ritual. He binned the Ascension.
What's your favorite side of Gifts Ungiven to be on? The person who's casting it and putting the 4 cards out, or the person who gets to make the piles?
I'm usually the person making the piles. I'm sure casting it is more fun, but I'm usually the one who has to pick, the one playing against the Storm player.
Now the surgical comes.
Yeah.
And you had the feeling that Caleb was either baiting this or anticipating this or setting up a plan that is going to be viable through this surgical extraction.
I feel like he should, yeah. Knowing deck lists, the players we're playing was open deck lists, meaning they know exactly what they're up against. I'm assuming they know the sideboards too, or do they know the numbers? Maybe you do it like in the...
Yeah, it's total knowledge.
Total knowledge, so... He also has got to assume that if Mike kept a one-lander on the draw without having mulligan, that I feel like it's more likely he has a surgical in his hand. So let's see if he can get anything going here. Like turn 6, and Mike's still stuck on one land.
We'll see if Caleb Scherer can put the pieces together and draw this match even. Sean Seacree's hanging out with you on the Modern Streamers League. Gabriel Nassif, Yellow Hat, with us. We're joined by Visquis87 from Team Fire. He'll be joining us here in the post-match analysis and later on this evening. And, of course, our league founder, TheSaintDoom, who's playing right now. He'll be doing the forecasts of Doom all night long and joining us for our pre- and post-match analysis. Right now, Caleb Scherer looks like he's got a window. Tide Hollow Sculler, this didn't have the impact that I think Black-White would hope it would have in game 1, and here it's going to be met with animosity from the Storm side and not even get the chance to resolve in game 2. Is this 5th land going to be enough, Gab? Is this what Caleb's been waiting for as he looks at the rituals in his hand?
Looks like it is, because he's playing a Manamorphose before even casting pieces of the puzzle. So he's digging. He needs something. He has all the tools, I guess, but not the payoff card. He doesn't have the empty. He doesn't have the Pass in Flames. There's an Ascension.
So he doesn't have a cost reducer to help turn those Manamorphoses into rituals of their own.
Yeah, he did find the Ascension, which... Oh, yeah, he's going to draw the Ascension. Looks like he can trigger it twice. If he plays a Pyretic Ritual first, cast Ascension, cast Manamorphose, cast Ritual, he can do a lot. Let's see if it's good enough. The problem is, like, Grape Shot has been surgicaled, and Empty the Warrens could be met by a Plagued Engineer naming Goblin, so Caleb has to tread carefully here. I mean, I'm guessing that was Pyromancer Ascension. I don't know what's the term. Not fled, but trigger twice. He should be in really, really good shape.
Well, and really, I think that Scherer was looking for one of those missing big pieces for the win you had mentioned, because he has an opponent who we know has 2 Rest in Peace available to him, who's tapped out, and only with 2 surgical extractions coming in out of the board. One's already been used. So I think if you're Scherer, you would have to assume the coast is clear at this point, but unable to put together one of those big pieces that you mentioned. And now he's trying to work this Ascension in order to give himself this angle on the game. He's nodding into the camera. We see him in his utilitarian magic fatigues, as it were, the black muscle shirt and the beanie, all ready to go. Cold in any weather, in any environment, it would seem, for Caleb Scherer, always with the knit cap on. Good place to store your pencil or your pen when you're a small player. You can see it hanging out of his ear, even though we're playing digitally here this evening on the Modern Streamers League.
Yeah, trademark hat, trademark beanie.
Speaking of somebody who's been known for a trademark headwear, is there a convention that you guys get together at? I don't know how this goes.
No, I actually forgot my hat last time too for Mythic Championship in Barcelona. I went a lot
behind you there over your left shoulder, so it's still
it's right behind me. I left it. I forgot it. Honestly, Caleb it feels like he's struggling despite being so far ahead.
Is he unwilling to risk pieces of the puzzle or the Baral? Now he finds a Past in Flames and is going to go for it. This would seem to lock it up if he can generate the mana that he would need.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how many Lightning Bolt he kept in, but I think technically Caleb can still lose this game. Because even if he plays a huge Empty the Warrens, if Mike draws a land, has the Plague Engineer to get rid of the Goblins, and has his second Surgical Extraction, which I guess he probably doesn't have, he probably would have played it, so I guess Caleb doesn't have to be, but technically he could still lose this game and run out of win conditions if he didn't bring in if he doesn't have a bunch of Lightning Bolts in his deck to just burn Mike out. So it should be okay, but maybe Mike still has outs.
There's the bolt you had mentioned.
All right, so he did keep in some, which makes sense against the Stoneforge Mystic, Tide Hollow Scholar, Dark Confidant. You were talking about Tide Hollow Scholar, how it doesn't have a huge impact. It's kind of that card. It's fine, you know. It's like kind of there's nothing better you can play in a white-black kind of a card. It's never super exciting, but it usually does the job. All right, that's a lot of mana, a lot of cards in hand. All right, we see another bolt because Caleb can essentially see his entire deck. So if he has a third bolt in his deck, that's just game.
We see another Gifts Ungiven as well.
It might even be game if he has another Empty the Warrants in his deck, because he can just bolt, then play them again, play another empty and replay them. So yeah, I think we're gonna just see Caleb burn Mike out this turn.
Well, he took the long and winding route to get here, but it looks like he is going to get it done. And let's be honest, if you weren't here at the beginning of this particular game 2 in round 1 tonight, Caleb was afforded some extra room to develop in this game because TheSaintDoom, the only undefeated player in the league, kept a one-lander and struggled to get to a second land before he could really start interacting. No plays until turn 3 when he fired off a Thoughtseize. Then we saw a Tide Hollow Sculler. That didn't even hit the board. And now Caleb Scherer has had time to put this together, really taking advantage of his opponent's mana stumbles. You look at SaintDoom for a modern deck, he's playing a fairly land-heavy deck with 24 lands in his deck. And still, we ended up with a mana stumble here in game 2 that gave Caleb Scherer time to set up. And it looks like ultimately, on the back of Ascension and Lightning Bolt, take this one down.
Yeah, didn't even need Empty the Warrens. And I wonder if it's a hand Mike kept because he was maybe up a game, felt he could quote-unquote gamble. I'm honestly not sure you should be keeping any 7-card hand that only has 1 land and doesn't have a discard spell. So quite questionable. And I think if Mike ends up losing the match, he might kind of regret the decision.
Caleb tweaking here in the sideboard before game 3. Our other matchups coming up this evening, Cat Light and Spider Space going to be round 2. Cat back on her legendary Blue-White Spirits deck. We're going to see Team Ice with another black-white variation of Spider Space as mono-white Death and Taxes. That'll be round 2 tonight. Dido and NobleMurloc in round 3. Garrett Martin and Sodek in round 4. And then in a scheduling switch, it'll be Kappolo and GhostxEmpire tonight in round 5. They jumped up to join us for Wednesday. It's going to be a great night here on the Modern Streamers League, all brought to you by Card Hoarder and Card Kingdom. Now we get to see the black-white deck on the play here, Gab, and a turn 1 Thoughtseize. This is how game 1 started that TheSaintDoom ultimately took down. I think he's got to be feeling good to start with this same opening here in game 3. Yeah.
Concealed Courtyard, perfect turn 1 land, Thoughtseize, gets to see Caleb's hand. Yeah, Caleb's opening hand is kind of, I want to say sometimes not even that important because you know he's going to get hit by a bunch of discard spells. He has a fine hand. He only has 1 land, but he has double opt. He can't. You can never mulligan that hand against a discard deck. So we saw. I thought Caleb sideboarding real quick. I don't even think he has Empty the Warrens in his deck. He's just going for the Grape Shot, Lightning Bolt, Pyromancer, Ascension plan, and
TheSaintDoom didn't have in game 2, and that was the mana to bring out Rest in Peace on curve, and Caleb Scherer is going to have to fight through it here in game 3.
Yeah, and without Empty the Warrens in his deck, without the ability to turn on a Pyromancer Ascension, it means he's going to have to do it the hard way with Grape Shot. We might see potentially some like Grape Shot, Reman, my own Grape Shot action. That might be a way he gets enough of damage in. But really the perfect draw for Mike here. It's going to be interesting to see if Caleb can somehow navigate out of it.
We get to see SaintDoom land the Liliana. Caleb Scherer has won with the Grape Shot Reman, Grape Shot combo on the weeks of this league that he's put in victories in Season 1. We'll see if that's going to be the path that he takes now. The first instinct might be to roll out the Baral, but is it maybe time to sandbag it against an opponent with so many copies of Fatal Push, with so much spot removal? as a black-white deck does. There are some things that these black-white decks do well. Hand disruption, spot removal, and of course in Modern, any 2-color deck gets to have a much more pain-free mana base than your 3, 4, or 5-color decks. So these all seem to be some of the edges that the black-white deck is pushing.
Yeah, totally. And we see Caleb value getting rid of the Liliana, winning straight 2 cards. For the Liliana, now facing a Kambal. This is where knowing your deck, if you're Caleb, this is where it's really important to know how to play your deck, to know how the matchups goes. Because, I mean, everyone can, especially game ones, everyone can just play a barrel on turn 2, go ritual, give some given, empty the and it doesn't take it's pretty straightforward. But where it really becomes tricky with these combo decks is playing against and around the hate in sideboard games. So we'll see if Caleb can do it. It's obviously looking like super, super grim. It's almost feels like 1 step forward, 2 step back every turn. He gets rid of something and boom, Mike comes back with Kambal. And I don't know. Obviously,
he's trying to put together a 60-piece puzzle and some of the pieces are missing.
Yeah, it's literally he needs to be playing that's a pretty great analogy, actually.
We'll see the Stoneforge Mystic combo piece from TheSaintDoom, Mike Goldenberg. And if he gets Batterskull down, that is going to be just so much life that I think Caleb Scherer, without the ability to play through the graveyard, is going to have a hard time just dealing that much raw damage.
Yeah. And the way this game plays out, you can kind of see why maybe Caleb didn't even bother with empty the Warrens, because even if he does get a decent empty, he's not going to get a great one because he's probably going to get hit by a couple discard spells. So even if he empties for 8 or 10 tokens, Mike might just play a couple 2/2s and the tokens don't even get there. So I guess he's just in the mindset of oh, well, if he has Rest in Peace, game's going to be really hard. And I said it was a tough matchup for Caleb, and we can see why it's really not much he can do.
If you're queasy and maybe don't like to watch horror movies, you might want to close your eyes at the end of this one, because this is all one way. And Caleb really in these final moments in round 3 getting slaughtered here, as SaintDoom didn't even go for the Batterskull. He went for the Sword of Fire and Ice, gives him a way to control some of the cost reducers and Goblin Electromancer, and is going to guide him to the win as Team Ice picks up the win here in round 1. It's week 7, night 1 of the Modern Streamers League. And let's bring in everyone now. Sean Seacrease along with Gabe Nassif, and we'll have TheSaintDoom, who kicks the extra point and gets to 7-0 on the season, and Visquis87 with us as well. Yeah. You're lucky you won, SaintDoom, because now we can ask you some questions. Nassif was pretty hard on some of your lines that you took in that matchup. Were you nervous about the one-lander in game 2? Did you have a powerful hand that you were just looking to add land to? What was your thought process once you went to the sideboard in a matchup in which you were favored?
So my sideboard plan was take out Lingering Souls. I took out a Stoneforge Mystic, and there wasn't. The problem was that I almost had too many cards to bring in that situation. But I really wanted to lean hard on combo. I was really surprised when I surgicaled Caleb and I saw no empty the Warrens, because I brought in 2 Plague Engineers expecting that line. Chatted with him after, and he said he was almost next leveling, because he knew my sideboard plan was I had to even though I knew game 2 he didn't bring it in because I saw his deck list from the surgical. I had to still keep it in game 3 just in case he was just gonna be oh, I'm gonna get you, because 10/1/1s could buy him a ton of time, if not win him the game outright. So I kept that one-lander. It had Surgical, it had Rest in Peace, it had Tide Hollow Sculler, it had Bob, it had Liliana, it had Stoneforge Mystic, it had 1 land. I did the math. I figured I could miss. If I drew a discard spell or a land, that's 30 out of 53 right there, and I figured I had a turn or 2 anyways. I wasn't expecting to not draw my second land till I think it was like turn 5 or 6. That retrospect should have been a mulligan. I also had a fatal push too. So just in case he had, I had a fatal push too. Just in case he had a creature, but he didn't. He sided some creatures out, so that hurt a little bit too. So that was really spectacular watching Caleb beat me just with lightning bolts. It was almost a beautiful thing. So I'm kind of glad that happened there.
Congratulations on the win. Team Ice taking round 1. Ryan Steiner with us. You know him as Visquis87. He's part of Team Fire. Are you guys just in rally mode right now? What are you thinking after, let's be honest, one of the best modern players alive, let alone on your team, goes down to the seemingly unstoppable SaintDoom, who's now 7-0 on the season? How are you guys going to rally here later tonight?
Oh man, we're just gonna have to get together and come back at this because this is getting tough. Someone's got to take Michael down, and unfortunately, I can't jump in there anymore and try and do it for the team. Can't put him on my back on that one, but someone's got to stop this guy. I can't take his cocky self going at it and his bald head going for it. It's too much for me.
I couldn't imagine what we'd all be in for if he founds the league and then goes 10-0.
It'd be too much. It's way too much.
I don't think it's going to happen. Like last week against Catlight, Cat. That was against it was 2 Stoneforge Mystic decks battling against each other, and I won by the skin of my teeth. Just like when I beat Ryan, Ryan was in a situation where he basically was me game 2 just as the last match. He should have mulliganed for a removal spell. He didn't, and I won because he kept a 7 that couldn't beat a turn 2 Devoted Druid.
What a great first round here this evening. Of course, the Modern Streamers League is brought to you by Card Kingdom and Card Hoarder. If you've got an upcoming paper event, Card Kingdom's going to have everything you need, and they'll make sure it arrives in time for you to comfortably prepare for your event. And of course, Card Hoarder, well, they're your gateway to playing every sweet modern deck you want on Magic Online. Gabriel DeSief is going to hang out with us just a little bit longer. We appreciate him pushing into the larger wee hours as he joins us live from France this evening. We're going to have round 2 coming up next. Spider Space and his innovative mono white Death and Taxes takes on Catlight and her legendary blue-white Spirits deck. It comes up next in round 2. We'll get the forecast of Doom as well, all on this evening on the Modern Streamers League.
Welcome back to the forecast of Doom. We have Spider Space on White, Death, and Taxes, no Eldrazi, which is surprising from Spider Space, and Catlight, Hellcat MTG on Azorius Spirits, Blue-White Spirits. This is, at its heart, going to be a Stoneforge Mystic battle. This is a mid-range battle, back and forth. I do feel like Cat is going to be favored here because some of her creatures have flying, and Spider Space does not really have too many ways to deal with flying. Both decks are running Path to Exile. Both decks are running Batterskull. It's really going to come down to who lands Stoneforge Mystic first. This kind of reminds me of last week when my black-white deck played against Cat Light, and it was really, the matchup was one, it was almost as simple as who landed Stoneforge Mystic and who equipped the first sword. Now, Phyrexian or Vokra in Spider Space aside can name a sword that Cat has and Spider Space doesn't, which could be pretty interesting. Or he could just name Batterskull and then Path to Exile her Germ token and leave her stranded for a few turns. Postboard, I think Cat gets a little bit better too, having options like Geist of St. Traft, another sword. Both players do have Gideon, ally of Zendikar, so I'm curious if those will come in. Now, Spider Space looks like he did game a little bit with these Mirran Crusaders main board. There's not going to be that great against these blue-white creatures here. Although, of note, the Germ token is a black token, so Mirran Crusader can fly through and crash. Or as Ryan likes to say, smash. So that is the forecast of Doom. We will get right to it right now.
This is round 2 on night 1 of week 7 of the Modern Streamers League. It is Cat Light on Blue-White Spirits and Spider Space on Mono-White, Death and Taxes. Sean Secrease along with the Hall of Famer, Gabriel Nassif. Thank you for joining us this evening, and we're sticking around for our second round. Gab, let's start with Cat Light's Blue-White Spirits deck. This is a deck that uses the synergy of spirits, but now gets to add that easy drop-in 6-card Stoneforge package. And if you've never played in a format in which Geist of St. Traft can be suited up, absolutely terrifying when you're sitting on the other side. Do you like what the Stoneforge package does to this Spirits deck?
I don't know enough about Spirits to know, and I think it's a bit kind of the question for a lot of these modern decks right now is unbanning a Stoneforge Mystic. Are you better off putting Stoneforge Mystic in your deck or not, you know? It's not a big cost, it's only 6 cards, but for instance, I've been playing a Bant Soul Herder deck, and I get the feeling that Stoneforge really doesn't help my game playing that much. It seems like both Spider Space and Catlight decided Stoneforge was good. And either way, it's going to be, I think, an uphill battle for Spider Space. I don't think his deck is very well suited to deal with the kind of the swarm decks, whether it's Merfolk or Spirits or Elves, all these decks. We see Spider Space was Mirran Crusader in his deck, not the greatest against a blue-white deck.
Well,
so,
and then Spirits has the advantage of being evasive as well, with most of the Spirits being in the air. So it does seem like Spider Space is going to be at least a half step behind during analysis in this Stoneforge Mystic Mirror. And an extra thanks, by the way, to Spiderspace. This is our one change-up for the night. Week 7 being hosted by Team Fire, but Kat had a software issue, couldn't record, and so Spiderspace was kind enough to step in and record this match. So this will be the only match that we see from Team Ice's perspective here this evening on the Modern Streamers League. So right now, Spiderspace, he goes for the Stoneforge Mystic, elects for the Sword of Fire and Ice. And Gab, this is one of the things that we've seen early, is that if players don't feel like their life total is under duress, they've elected to go for the Sword of Fire and Ice rather than the Batterskull. You get the trigger, which includes drawing a card and the ability to shock any target that you like. And those are huge upsides.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes Batterskull's just going to be like mopey, I guess, almost too slow. Putting up 4/4 lifelink to play on turn 3 is just not going to do that much for you. And we see Spiderspace opting for the sword. And looking at Spiderspace hand, he had to mulligan too, which obviously doesn't help, but you can see why the matchup's not great. I feel like he's almost playing with half his cards, like Revoker doesn't stop that much. It stopped Ether Vial and Giver of Runes, but Spiderspace has these cards in his deck as well, so it's kind of awkward. He's got Spellskite, which is okay. I think Kat probably has Path to Exile in her deck. We see a Mind Sensor, just a lot of hate bears that are not really hating that much in this specific matchup.
Yeah, Mind Sensor, not only does it arrive late after Kat is able to Stoneforge herself, but Mind Sensor in this matchup is going to be outclassed in the air. You know, it's a 2/1 flyer, but when you're taking on spirits, they're going to be in the air and usually bigger than you as well, as Mind Sensor really just isn't that impressive a body.
Yeah, exactly. As you said, at least it has flying, but we'll see how this game plays out. We see Kat, no lords yet, so she also has Mariner, which is, I have a hard time rating that card. I haven't played much with it. It's one of the newer cards from Modern Horizon, and it's interesting, but it also doesn't have flying. It doesn't really pump your team, so it doesn't have the greatest synergy necessarily with the rest of your cards. So, and that's kind of, I think, good for Spider. Like basically any creature that doesn't have flying is, I want to say, is a good thing for Spiderspace. So we'll see if maybe Kat doesn't have the super aggressive draw, like not the fastest clock, and if Spiderspace can capitalize.
Spiderspace activating the vial here. So far in 2 rounds tonight, we've seen Team Ice go with 2 archetypes that are, I think, more famously templated in Legacy, that being DeadGuy Ale from TheSaintDoom in round 1. And now, of course, here in round 2 with Spiderspace, we're seeing a mono white Death and Taxes. This was the dominant deck in Legacy for a long stretch, and we're seeing some of those telltale signs here, whether it's Stoneforge Mystic and that package, whether it's Vial, whether it's the Great Mana Base. Now you have Field of Ruin, which you can also use as disruption. Of course, Wasteland, famous in Legacy for fulfilling that role. Is this deck, if you port it to Modern, going to be powerful enough to keep up? Because we know that it has a heritage, if you will, of being very good, but some of its key cards and engines aren't available in the Modern format.
Yeah, Spiderspace, actually, I'm not sure what he's played in the first few weeks, but this is his trademark deck. Mm-hmm. Whether it's mono white, a white black version, a white green version, he just loves that deck, and he does consistently well with whatever version he's playing.
We saw some Eldrazi Stompy from him early in our league.
Yeah, sometimes with Eldrazi, sometimes with that. You were talking about Legacy. This deck's actually, I mean, not these specific cards, but Echo Baron had a top 4 finish in the Vintage Challenge this past weekend. Of course, he's playing Mox and Lotus, but he has Thalia. He has both Thalias, Eldrazi, kind of just white hate there in Vintage. So really, in all the Eternal formats that deck sees play.
And it's one of those decks that once you see a density of efficient, relevant hate bears, it's going to be a player in whatever format that you're in. And now that we have enough for it to be played in Modern, it can really be in any Eternal format at this point. So we'll see how Spiderspace innovates on it, whether he takes it with the Eldrazi sort of feel that we have now with the colorless creatures arrival, or if it ends up being a more traditional white style deck in the future. But I'm interested to see over the couple of weeks that Spiderspace plays this version, how his matchups play out. And if you want the latest on what he's doing, our recent VOD is up. You can see those on the Twitch channel here for the Modern Streamers League, as Spiderspace was in action with this same deck a week ago, as was Cat Light. Cat cracking in now with Spirits, and suddenly Spiderspace's life, Gab, is under quite a bit of duress, as Cat's succeeded in going wide, really right under his nose.
Yeah, she has, and she also has Giver of Runes, which is pretty huge right now. Or is it gonna be? Yeah, it is. It means that his equipment plan is just not really efficient. If I'm not mistaken, there's just no point in him equipping and attacking, because she can just block and give protection from white or colorless, depending on which creature.
I don't think
he equips.
Give protection from colorless. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you have to pick a color.
No, I think Giver of Runes gives protection from colorless. It does. It's actually kind of a new thing. It's in some ways better than Mother of Runes, I guess. It actually came up in a game of mine where I was the one with Giver of Runes and equipment, and I couldn't attack into their Wormcall engine, because if I gave protection from colorless to my creature, then the equipment folds off. So you actually get in weird scenarios in the new Modern format with Giver of Runes and Swords, and sometimes you equip your creature with if you equip your creature with a Sword of Light and Shadow, for instance, it has pro white, and all of a sudden you can't protect it with your Giver of Runes anymore. So it can get a little awkward sometimes.
Speaking of awkward, I just challenged the Hall of Famer and got embarrassed. So thank you for the reminder and the lesson here. They're looking to pound in against Spiderspace and even things up for Team Fire with a win here in the second round this evening. You can see where Spiderspace was trying to go. He's got the sword that he went to get. It's just been sitting on the battlefield, and he hasn't been able to leverage it. Meanwhile, Cat using her flyers, that advantage we talked about with Spirits being evasive, as a way to pressure Spiderspace here in game one. Another Field of Ruin can't be what Spiderspace was looking for. Not that the Mirran Crusader would be great, but it's stranded in his hand because he has just the one white source to go along with the now three colorless sources. And Phyrexian Revoker, not going to be that big of an impact, I don't think, on this board.
Yeah, no, just none of his cards really do anything. He needed to draw Path to Exile is his best card in the matchup, but he didn't see a single copy, and that Giver of Runes just kind of completely owning him, even though actually he might finally get a good attack, because Pro Blue on the Mind Sensor, meaning Wanderer cannot block, so Cat doesn't have a blocker. Is it going to be enough, though? He might not be able to block, but she can just take the damage and then protect whichever creature Spiderspace chooses to shoot. I guess Spiderspace is just going to shoot face. Oh, right. She has the Path to Exile. Spiderspace has a Spellskite. That's another reason why Batterskull was not very effective in the face of Giver of Runes, because you just block, give pro black, no lifelink, no nothing. So we can see why Spiderspace got the swords.
Can he craft a path back, trailing a wider board at just 4 life? And one thing that the Sword of Fire and Ice does, of course, you get the card draw trigger. He'll be able to deal out some damage here, but with the Giver of Runes up, Spiderspace has to be thinking, does he have a follow-up that he wants to use? And we can see from his point of view with his hand on the bottom of the screen, he doesn't have a great follow-up answer. So is it worth going to the face if he gets the trigger now?
I think he's drawing dead. I think that Mariner is making sure that he can't even even if he draws a Path to Exile, he won't have the mana to cast any of the spells. He has to pay for the Mariner. Cat has the Giver of Runes ready.
Pulls the head back as he does draw the Path, and now can't play it.
And not even close. He's 2 mana short from playing it. Or I guess he hadn't played a land yet. 1 mana short. So yeah, get on board. Looks like Cat's going to take game 1.
Yeah, with no white anywhere to be seen, he couldn't even think about getting off to a start with that Path to Exile, and that's going to be the concession from Spider Space here in game 1. They'll go to sideboards now. Cat Light of Team Fire has picked up game 1. And you mentioned it in round 1, where we were watching as Caleb Scherer did his sideboarding. Is there some leveling to be had here in this matchup? Both players have similar sideboards in that they have their Gideons, ally of Zendikar, both in this cage. Both are using Damping Sphere. We see some overlap with other options as well. We mentioned Cat, we thought, had the leg up because of the evasiveness and synergy of spirits. Where do you think Spider Space goes as he tries to claw his way back into this match?
We see him taking a look at Cat's deck. I'm guessing sideboarding for Spider Space is going to be fairly straightforward. I feel like he has some pretty bad cards in his main deck and not a ton to bring in. We saw On Thin Ice come in and Relic Order come in. Obviously, Damping Sphere not very good against the Spirits deck. Rest in Peace does basically nothing. Forge Tender does nothing. Cage, etc. Gideon is a bit slow. So yeah, he's bringing in some removal, little creature removal, little removal for the swords. The Relic Order also hits Ether Vial. I think Ratchet Bomb is kind of the question mark for Spider Space. He decides to not. It's a bit awkward. Decides to not bring it in because it blows up a lot on his side.
Spider Space on the play, looking at a hand with only a colorless mana source. He's going to elect to keep and take the Vial angle on this game. He has the Giver of Runes himself for the first activation into Stoneforge Mystic for the second. And Vial is one of those cards that it's great early. There's no doubt about it, any format you want to put it in. It's a tough draw late if you're looking for answers or pressure. And if you don't have the right context to your hand, it's something that represents a threat but can't follow through with it. I'm not arguing, Gab, that Vial isn't worth playing, but sometimes I don't think it's as good as the amount of fear associated with it on the other side of the table.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a card it's tough to find the right ratio, and I've played a bit of these Death and Taxes deck. Maybe my versions weren't great, but it definitely felt like you needed to draw exactly the Vial on turn 1 and then exactly not flood out and have these decks can look really great and they can look kind of bad. One thing that made Vial much better recently is the additions of more of the Horizon Canopy type of lands. Mm-hmm. This is exactly the kind of cards you want with Vial because you don't really need your lands in the late game. So, or in Spider Space case, Field of Runes, Ghost Quarters, you get to play all these utility lands. And we had a interesting keep on Spider Space. I think I like the keep. Only 1 land, but he has 2 Ether Vial. It's kind of tricky because it's a matchup where tempo is super important, and if he doesn't draw the second land in his first 2 draw steps, I feel like he's going to fall super far behind. So it's actually going to be interesting to see if he can keep up despite not drawing that second land, not being able to activate a Stoneforge Mystic.
Would it ever be a consideration that you would keep maybe a hand without a white source, as Spider Space did, knowing that your opponent is likely to fix your mana at some point with their 4 Path to Exiles?
Yes and no. I don't think he can expect Cat to cast Path to Exile while he's stuck on 1 colorless. So he would definitely rather have basic planes in his opening hand because it means that any land draw lets him activate Stoneforge Mystic. If he's desperate enough, if he draws a Ghost Quarter, he could float floated colorless Ghost Quarter himself, Ghetto Plains, really just to get that one Stoneforge activation. But yeah, this is going to be the key turn. I said he needed in his plains in his top 2 cards. I think it was actually his top 3 cards. So because now he has Stoneforge Mystic in play, and he's going to untap with it, and we'll see if he can get there.
You see Spider Space hosting for this particular matchup. He has fairly close to a poker face. He's been behind in this matchup, and he knows it, so maybe betraying just a little bit of that on his countenance, but you're about to see a study in opposition. If we'd have had him on the camera for next round, NobleMurloc is coming up, the most physically emotive host that we have amongst our players here. I believe that we're going to be watching the next round, Dido and NobleMurloc, from Dido's point of view. So we'll see Dido, the master of Grixis Death Shadow, taking on NobleMurloc with what he's calling Mean Green Karn. He was able to put up a win with it last week, and we'll see if he gets there again, in fact, this week. That's coming up in round 3 here this evening on the Modern Streamers League.
Is that some kind of devotion deck? Does he have Nykthos in that deck?
He has Nykthos in that deck, along with Eternal Witness, Walking Ballista, Llanowar Tribe, and then, of course, the Karn and Nissa, who shakes the world, looking to get there early. Of course, the lands are colorless. You've got Karn implications. You've got all of that mana running around with Walking Ballista. So it should be an interesting one to watch coming up next. Spider Space looking for answers here against Cat Light and her Spirits deck.
He braked for the 3rd turn in a row. He does have the Warder for the Batterskull, which is huge here. Might buy him another turn or 2, but it's definitely looking grim. He's stuck on 1 land. Cat has had a good curve. She has 6 cards in hand still. We saw Spider Space tutor for the Sword of Light and Shadow. It was that or Sword of Fire and Ice, but since Cat just has 2 white creatures plus the black germ, Sword of Light and Shadow made a ton of sense.
We do see with Spider Space with one interesting situation. He has a Vial on 3, and he has the big heavy hitter in his hand, and that's his big 3-drop that he was stranded from last time in Mirran Crusader. He can bring that out at instant speed, protect it with the Giver, and suddenly the Batterskull is off the board, and now he's got a big attacker that he can leverage. So Spider Space may have kind of worked this around into an avenue that at least gives him some play right now.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't actually need even to give it protection. He already has protection from black. So, but I think Cat actually opted to play around. Oh, never mind. She's attacking now. So he actually has multiple answers to that germ token. He can put Crusader in play, but we might see Cat give the germ protection from white, which she does. She actually did that before blockers because Spider Space has his own Giver of Runes and his own blocker.
And you mentioned that we already have on Mirran Crusader protection from black. With the Giver in play, he can protect it from a Path to Exile of his own if he so chooses, if Cat would dispense with one. So with double Giver, this is going to be an interesting match.
Yeah, it's going to be, it might take a while. It's going to be interesting decisions. I think Cat was the slight mistake here. I'm not too sure if I'm missing something. I feel like maybe Spider Space should have vialed on his turn while Cat only had 1 mana up. Get the Batterskull then, because Batterskull, the cost is 3 mana, right, to bounce it to your hand?
I believe so.
So I'm not too sure why. Yeah, maybe he was worried about. No, he not. I feel like maybe I'm missing something. I don't feel like Spider Space would make that mistake, but
head roll back from Spider Space as he goes another turn without hitting a white source.
Yeah, how does that always seem to happen? You all you need is a land and you draw your 3rd vial. It's like the deck's just mocking you.
10 snow-covered plains, 2 horizon canopies, and a sunbaked canyon, as well as the ability to trigger Field of Ruin. Well, he doesn't have the other 2 mana he would need of any sort, in order to sort of fix that color problem for himself. So Spider Space just sort of counting down the outs, as it were, before he's likely to draw that white source.
Yeah, looks like we found Spider Space, the limits of his poker face. He's
betraying a little more emotion right now.
Yeah, a little bit of frustration. Yeah. Understandable.
Well, in Spider Space's defense, as it were, he's able to hang around this game with the combination of cards that he's been able to Aether Vial out. I think the one thing that Cat is probably looking for here is one of those, we talked about it in the lead up, Geists of St. Traft. It's a hexproof. It hits extremely hard. She has a sword that she would be able to put on it. A Geist of St. Traft here would be an almost slamming shut of the door, as Spider Space would be hard pressed to keep up in any way. And now Spider Space losing the last bit of cool as he draws Phyrexian Revoker and the frustration stretch, to which I am no stranger coming from Spider Space. You see Cat Light, Hellcat MTG, her hand and field on the top. That is the designation for Hellcat MTG Blue-White Spirits that's underneath my visage. That is not a misprint, and no, I am not Cat Light. And then on the bottom half, you see Spider Space hosting. He's playing his mono-white Death and Taxes above the Hall of Famer Gabriel Nassif, kind enough to join us here this evening. So, yeah, Spider Space, I mean, he's trying to fit some of the puzzle pieces together here, but he's being backed into a corner where he can only play creatures and only ones that match up with his vials, which are on 2 and 3. And as he brings out the Revoker, he now has no playable cards in his hand other than a third vial, which I don't think he'll want to expose.
Yeah, he's doing what he can. We saw him. So what he did was use his Giver to give protection, then use the vial. Cat did not respond, and he kind of got a free hit in was Crusader. He actually named Giver of Runes despite having a Giver of Runes because he decided Cat's Giver of Runes was just more important right now. We see 2 Paths to Exile in Spider Space hand, so I mean the map is kind of complicated, but maybe Spider Space can win this race. We'll see. That Crusader does hit hard. That's also pretty big hit he's gonna take 4, 5, 6, but at least the Sword of Light and Shadow not doing a ton for Cat. It's basically +2/+2 gain free life every turn right now. I mean, the protection is super relevant. We see Spider Space crossing his fingers. I'm assuming that means he thinks he still has outs and he might be able to win this game.
Spider Space just watching as the Flash Spell Queller came in.
Yeah, just to pump up the Wanderers.
Acting as the Lord now, increasing the clock, and Stoneforge Mystic. This has almost become like watching a car crash at this point, as Spider Space's frustration, and he's done a great job of sort of taking it in stride. He knows that Magic will do this to you sometimes.
Yeah.
More frustrating to watch it happen now or to have it happen to you during a top 8. I mean, you're the one who's lived through that.
Yeah, sometimes it's, I'm not sure. I'm guessing it's still more frustrating when the stakes are maybe a bit higher. But yeah, Spider Space, I'm not sure if he had drawn the Plains last turn, if he could still mount a comeback and win the race. I don't think it would have mattered at this point, but we do see that his keep ended up being kind of reasonable. I feel like if he had drawn a land at like the first 4 or 5 turns, it's kind of tough because it's kind of a tempo-oriented matchup, and with the London Mulligan rule, mulliganing is a little less punishing. So it was definitely a super interesting decision. Didn't pay off. He had the 2 vials, he had the 1-drop, he had the 2-drop. Yeah, just
the Lord, I think
matchup.
That's going to do it.
Yeah. We saw
the victory as we just lost the tail end of the match, going to Cat Light as her Blue-White Spirit deck just too much. The evasion that we mentioned during the match analysis, as well as her not having to battle the mana issues that we saw Spider Space have to battle there in game 2. So Team Fire, it's back on the board, picking up the win in round 2. We're tied up at 1-1 here this evening. Sean Seacrease, along with Gabriel Nassif, Ryan Steiner, and TheSaintDoom, Michael Goldenberg. All right, Visquis, Ryan Steiner, your team obviously responded to your pep talk. That was a great win for Hellcat. I think she was advantaged in the match. I know you were watching along with us, and you're going to be jumping in for the next couple of rounds. Did you guys like the matchup when you saw that she was going to seemingly have that Spirit's edge in a pseudo mirror? We talked about the evasion and the synergy, of course, that Spirits brings to the table.
Yeah, we definitely liked the ability of just the air raid we could put on all the humans. It was pretty good for us, being that we had a lot of evasion, some flyers to go over the top, and just it's all about equipping the swords and getting them going. So if we could do it faster than him, we had the advantage there.
TheSaintDoom, Mike Goldenberg, risky one land keep that you made in your matchup in game 2. Of course, you turned out with the win in round 1. Maybe not as risky for a Vile deck to keep one land when it has a couple of vials. It can still, in the humans style of Magic, play out some of its key cards. What were you thinking as you watched your teammate decide to make that keep and then kind of flounder around and never find his white mana in order to make his other possible plays relevant?
I think it was the right line. I mean, if we can check the math later to see if he would have what the odds were of drawing any white source. Any single white source let him activate Stoneforge Mystic, put a Battered Skull in play, put a weapon in play, whatever it ended up being. But he really just needed one white source. It was so close, especially with 2 Pats in hand. The 2 vials, I think definitely being able to have a vial on 2 and 3 definitely changed what he wanted to do. He could basically just still dump his hand. He just couldn't do anything with his creatures in play. What do you think, Gabriel? Would you have mulliganed that hand, that one lander?
I think I would have probably kept. He had 3 turns to draw planes.
Mm-hmm.
to have the planes on time to activate Stoneforge Mystic. And we saw that even after that, it felt like even on turn 4 or 5, he would have probably still been fine if he had drawn the planes. It's tough. I think Vial is probably your most important card in the matchup because it lets you just cheat on tempo.
Yes.
He had the one drop give over is really important. He had the Stoneforge Mystic. He really had a pretty great hand. Besides the hand, he didn't have the second white, and in tough matchups, I guess I probably would have kept. At the same time, if you do miss, it's tough. Without having played the matchup, it's tough to know if it's a keep or not. But I think I like it.
Both teams tied at 1 win here through our first 2 rounds. This is night 1 of week 7 of the Modern Streamers League. Gabriel Nassif, the Hall of Famer. You watch him stream. You watch him as Yellow Hat. You watch him play in the most prestigious Magic events around the world. Thank you so much for dropping in tonight. It was our pleasure to have you. I know you're going to be back in action on Thursday. Tell us when we can watch you and what you're going to be up to on Twitch.
Thursday we've got the Fandom Legends. I get to play this week. Haven't done too much recently, but I get another shot, and I stream most days on Yellow Hat. A bit of Vintage this week, preparing for the Mox playoff. I usually play a Modern Standard, whatever the next tournament is. I'll usually be testing for that. But I don't know, it was really fun. I know some of these guys. I know Spider Space a bit. I know Yama Killer. So the league starts a bit late for me, but I try to catch maybe the first match sometimes, and I like doing commentary. So thanks for having me. It was fun, and there's some pretty interesting matches too. Even though matchups were a bit somewhat lopsided, but the second one didn't seem that I felt like Spider Space had a better shot than I thought he would actually.
I'll go ahead and speak for TheSaintDoom right now. Anytime that you have a night of insomnia and want to jump on with us here on the Modern Streamers League, we would be more than happy to have you. Great luck during Fandom coming up on Thursday. Gabriel Nassif, Yellow Hat, with us tonight. Thank you so much. Visquis is going to jump in and join me on analysis for the next round that features Dido. He is the master of the Grixis Death Shadow deck. He's going to try and take down NobleMurloc on Mean Green Karn. That comes up next. It's round 3 of the Modern Streamers League, brought to you by Card Hoarder and Card Kingdom.
Good night.
Welcome back to the Forecast of Doom for the third match of the night. We have NobleMurloc on Big Mean Green Karn, Nykthos against Dido on Grixis Death Shadow. This is probably, on paper, this is the most lopsided match we are going to see tonight. However, was it last week? NobleMurloc beat Garrett Martin on Devoted Druid, which I had said that night was the most lopsided matchup against NobleMurloc. And somehow he pulled that match out of a place that I can't talk about because we're trying to we're trying to keep this PG. Tonight, though, Grixis Death Shadow has a fast clock, just like the Devoted Druid combo deck does, has Disruption, and has Stubborn Denial, which seems really good against Karn the Great Creator. NobleMurloc does have Ensnaring Bridge, which can win the game. That is the most impactful card that NobleMurloc has in his entire deck, main and side, because Karn can grab it. Now, Dido does have a Kolaghan's Command. He does have Kolaghan's Command main, which can destroy that artifact, and he does have more Kolaghan's Commands and an Abrade in the side. So I think that this is going to heavily favor Grixis Death Shadow, but if NobleMurloc can win Game 1, he might be able to steal it, maybe Game 3, because Dido has too many good cards to bring in to make this matchup equal. So that's my forecast of Doom. Let's see how this all plays out.
It's time for round 3 here on night 1 in week 7 of the Modern Streamers League. Sean Seacreek's joined now by Ryan Steiner. He's been helping us out in between matches. He'll slide in now and join us for the analysis. This was 87. You see him play for Team Fire, and no pressure whatsoever replacing a Hall of Famer. I just have a feeling you're a future Hall of Famer. That's why we brought you in, right?
I think I could take that from you. I have no pressure here, but man, that was just a great follow through for Yellow Hat and Gabriel Nassif. So glad he could join us today. I don't even have words to put into the motion for the fact that he was here supporting us. That was great.
Meanwhile, your teammate Dido, a master of the most efficient cards in the modern format, he has been on a tear throughout the Modern Streamers League with this Grixis Death Shadow list. And we're going to get some special insight from Ryan. This isn't why we asked him to join us tonight. It's just a happy side effect. He is IRL teammates with NobleMurloc, one of my absolute favorite on the stream to watch when he's in the caption box. We alluded to this earlier. Is he that energetic in real life?
Sadly, yes, he is that energetic in real life. I can't turn it down. There's no dial button. Unfortunately, he is like that at all times. And the best to do is not to let his ego go up. So don't say it too loud that you're enjoying watching him.
Well, he's on a great mean green Karn build. Will he have time to set up against Grixis Death Shadow? I really think this is what it comes down to. Dido, the most efficient cards in the matchup. But one thing that we can say for NobleMurloc, his cards, I think, have the higher top-end power level. You're looking at things like huge mana walking ballistas, Karn the Great Creator, Nissa who shakes the world, Finale of Devastation. If this game progresses to turns 7, 8, and 9, NobleMurloc is going to just be able to out-thump Dido in this situation. But we've seen Dido, a master of this deck, prevent his opponents from getting there in any meaningful way, whether it's been a combination of one-mana counter spells, quick early drops, and we see him already dropping his life total here in the early going to a level where he can roll out Death Shadow. It seems like a strong open right now for your teammate on the Grixis Death Shadow list.
Oh, 100%. I don't see any opportunity for this mean green Karn to do anything of any purpose here. I mean, we've already got a Death Shadow out. We've got Stubborn Denial backup. We've got this Dismember for any type of mana dork that may show up. I don't see this match, this particular game, even to that part, going much longer. This is such a brutal beating here. We've already stolen cards with Thought Seizes. I mean, this Karn's going to do super little here when it gets stubbed. I think they're just going to slowly start taking the downhill slope for Mr. NobleMurloc. I can't see anything happening well in his fortune this time.
Now, this isn't just a one-sided analysis. This is a Team Fire teammate of Dido and an IRL teammate of NobleMurloc. So the extra helping of Morton's here is probably justified from Ryan Steiner in the analysis chair. And this is going to be another opportunity for Dido to push Dido to push even further ahead as K-Command. It is so powerful that an efficient deck like this Grixis Death Shadow deck has chosen to include it as a 3-drop, which might as well be the moon sometimes when you look down and see that Dido's playing 17 lands in his deck. But it does good work, and we're going to see it here against Karn.
Oh, 100%. Like, NobleMurloc was like, I'm going to go get, the Ensnaring Bridge is really good against, Death Shadow. And then, obviously my Karn didn't get Stubborn Denial, so he must not have the Stubborn Denial, so we're going to get the Ensnaring Bridge. So we're going to put the Ensnaring Bridge down next turn, and it's like, well, he still doesn't have Stubborn Denial, but, Dido drew that K command, and things just went downhill from here.
That was one of the more brutal wins that I've seen in quite some time, and Dido getting right after it efficiently with Grixis Death Shadow. We are tied at 1 match apiece. This is round 3. Still to come tonight, we'll see Garrett Martin on Abzan Company take on Sodek on Blue Dredge, and then Kappolo on Ponza Karn. Might be the deck I'm most excited to see play tonight. Take on GhostxEmpire with what he's calling Bant Spaghetti. This is a Bant deck that uses Stoneforge Mystic and some other tools and some Eldrazi. I think that's the spaghetti reference. We'll see how that plays out in round 5 this evening. Right now, Ryan, if you're your teammate, Dido here, I don't think that there's a lot that you want to change in the deck.
No, there's not too much. You just want to take a proactive approach. Make sure you don't get beat by things like Ensnaring Bridge or any other type of artifacts. So we see more K commands coming in along with the Abrades afterboard. And just kind of trim down on some of your non-essential parts. We saw some Temur Battle Rage drop out. There's no need to go super duper fast here. Just gotta take the good cards that matter with the Thought Seizes, which is happening right now. Which will probably, I want to say he might take this Drag Tusk, but he's got the Eternal Witness is also a good call to kind of slow things down. But yeah, it's just gonna be something to see from here. We've already got a Thought Seized life total drop. We've got a Shock Fetch drop. Death Shadow's almost ready to go online. The only thing we're missing is the land, so we're going to see Serum Visions to help save him a little bit, and we'll see where we go from here.
Any interest in using the Dismember to get rid of the extra mana?
Oh, there is a huge interest here. We're hoping to hit a land to take, and I see we hit our Polluted Delta. I think we got to keep that, and I don't know whether he did that top or bottom, but we'll definitely see a little bit of a Mirshababble scrying action going on right now. And yeah, that's exactly what's happening. So he's going to keep that fetch for his. Or nope, there it goes. Never mind. We're just going to be taking over here. But yeah, definitely taking that mana offline here is going to be huge to be able to stop everything going on.
A little bit of a roll of the dice with electing to use the card filtering spell first, but it came up aces. I mean, he got the bobble, he got the fetch land into shock land into Dismember line, and now he's got the graveyard ready for Zombie Fish. He's got the big Death Shadow ready to come out. 2 Stubborn Denials. It looks like everything has really turned around quickly here after a fairly intimidating start from NobleMurloc.
Definitely. And the neat thing was he got to see so many cards there. The Serum Vision is going to look you at 3. The Mirshababble gets to look him at another one with the fetch, kind of in a sense. So he got to look at a lot of cards and set things up. He looked at them so fast that it was even hard for us to keep up track of where he put everything. So, I mean, with this Death Shadow coming down now with double Stubborn Denial backup is huge. And I don't know exactly what, NobleMurloc can do from here. Just probably, maybe there's a line. So there's a potential line if he can jam a Nissa to go along with this Thrag Tusk to be able to produce too many attackers for the Death Shadow opponent to kind of get through. That is a line that might work, but he's got to get through all these Stubborn Denials first. So it's going to take a little uphill battle.
Well, Stubborn Denial can't stop the Thrag Tusk from coming down. We'll see. Zombie Fish looks to be the first play. Is that what Dido's going to go for here? That would leave him with the ability for 1 Stubborn Denial.
Yeah, that's what we're debating now. Whether he wants to leave things in the graveyard for the Snapcaster, but he definitely wants to put more pressure on the board as Thrag Tusk is a roadblock at the moment. Especially with Temur Battle Rage is gone. He doesn't have a way to super push through, so he's just going to have to slog through this Thrag Tusk the best he possibly can. So he's got to put more pressure on the board.
It's a 7/7 Death Shadow, I believe, so he could roll through the Thrag Tusk now. But the other thing to keep in mind is his own life total, because of the damage that this deck inflicts upon itself. He's already at 6. So Thrag Tusk, not a problem defensively, but with the offense swinging NobleMurloc's way, that's going to have to be a consideration.
100%. You even see that in his attention to not attack with the Death Shadow, even though another sign for NobleMurloc on the non-attacking part was that he didn't want to trade his Death Shadow away for the Thrag Tusk and the Elf. So we get to see like a little bit of knowledge given to us from there that he doesn't have another way to, secretly push his life total back down even further. But yeah, the no attack is definitely a sign of, oh my gosh, my opponent has a 5/3 and I'm at 6. So we got to have a little bit defensive measures here.
So a bit of a countermeasure deployed by NobleMurloc to draw out the Stubborn Denial. Now he sneaks in the old school Garrett Wildspeaker.
Yeah, the big bad guys here. And that was kind of what I was going at with his way to fight through these Stubborn Denials. He's got to get the board bigger than what a Dido can put out. And so by being able to, make all these creatures on the board is a way to get around the fact that he only has 2 blockers. So the more that he can put out is going to be really good for Murloc to pull this one through.
K Command going with the 2 damage to the Garrett and then the discard.
That was strong. Now he's got no cards in hand, and we're all on top deck modes. So we're going to get another pass through, and now we've got a think step here. We've got to try to determine how far we want to push, and literally push his board, which will probably involve some sort of pushing fatally with that card there. But he's got to figure out whether he wants to hold up mana or start pushing through the board. Yeah, and here we're going to see a push through the board with some mana crunch, and then we should see an attack. Nope. Okay, we're going to stay on the defensive here for a little while longer.
I believe that Llanowar Tribe, is that a 2/3 as well as makes 3 mana? So it's not a 1/1 where you might be willing to take a couple of hits. It represents a little bit more than that.
Yeah, it's definitely a bunch of elves piled up together, and I think it's a 3/3. For each elf, it gets 1 power and 1 mana ability.
Is that the elf version of like Mirror Battlesphere? Is that?
It could be. At this point, the fact that he has 3 of them on the battlefield probably means it's a version of some sort of Battlesphere going on right now.
Snapcaster going to flash in, target the push.
Yeah, we're going to try to push our way through here, yep.
So down goes Garrett's Beast.
Yeah, and then my goodness, here's another Snapcaster. So we've got all kinds of ways to interact out of our grave, and I don't even know where he put those with removal spells. So we just got to be able to. We don't have the mana to do anything, so we're kind of burdened down on that end. So we're trying to push our way through, and I don't think he's going to be able to do it too well here.
So 17 lands run by Grixis Shadow, but only 6 of them are mana producers. The others are fetches. So this is a deck that's used to operating on very thin mana margins.
Super thin. I mean, what are we running? Like 2 basics, a swamp, and then your own island, and then everything else is nothing but shock lands.
Steam Blood Crypt, 2 Watery Grave, and then 1 swamp and 1 island.
Yeah, so being able to say, hey, I'm probably going to Snapcaster back this K command is going to take a little bit of work and some time. And it's possible that, time is all NobleMurloc needs to win this game.
Yeah, we talked about this in the lead up. If these games are progressing meaningfully into turns 7, 8, and 9, which this one certainly is, that's where NobleMurloc would seem to have the heavy hitters advantage. He stalled the board out enough, and Dido did enough damage to himself early that he's having to play on the defensive here because 2 swings from NobleMurloc would be enough to end this.
Yeah, indeed. And we're also looking at a point where we're adding, 3, 6, 9 mana from just the tribe, the battle spheres we've made, along with the 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're looking at, 15... 9 plus 6, 15 mana. So we'll get a very huge walking ballista if that ever decides to show up. And that's just going to be in-game. And he can't Stubborn Denial that bad boy.
Yeah, Finale of Devastation, a possibility. That could be Stubborn Denial. Then he still has the 1 in hand along with a Snapcaster for the 1 in the graveyard.
Yeah, at this point, it's all about putting more creatures onto the board for NobleMurloc. And hopefully one of those can get... can be that walking ballista to finish it. Yeah, here's some attacks. Here's some more pushing that we were hoping to find. I'll be curious to see if we're going to use a Snapcaster at some point here, maybe to Serum Vision some more. Okay, so here's the fishy, and we're going to save some stuff. And we're going to still hold up this Denial. And then we'll probably see a Snapcaster in the following turns push more creatures with either the Dismember or the K command now that we have the mana for it.
Does Denial lose much of its value here at this point? We just mentioned 15 mana available Now, you do have the hard clause on it because of the size of the fish along with the Death Shadow at this point.
Yeah, the Stubborn Denial is going to be great, and as long as NobleMurloc doesn't keep drawing creatures. This Denial will be great no matter what non-creature spell he probably draws. Whether it be Genesis Wave, heaven forbid that be the one, or Karn, or Nissa, or the enchantment that pumps his dudes. This Stubborn Denial is going to be great, and that stroke is one turn too late.
Well, Stroke can hit some of those mega spells that you were talking about. Finale of Devastation, Genesis Wave, Primal Command, Unbound Flourishing, no, but Garrett Wildspeaker, certainly one of those. Nissa, Who Shakes the World. All of these haymakers answered efficiently by the Death Shadow deck.
Indeed. I think one of the bigger ones we also... you mentioned a little bit earlier is that huge Walking Ballista.
Yeah.
Stroke's going to stop that too. So Dido's got a lot of lines blocked. Wow, another Stubborn Denial off the top. It's all a matter of just trying to push through this mere battlesphere we've created, and we're probably going to continue to see this Death Shadow just pile through every single turn, while we see NobleMurloc just flood out.
And this is one of those game states where if you're new to the game, you might think, well, Dido, he's in a lot of trouble. NobleMurloc's got 28 life. It's NobleMurloc right now who is clawing, trying to just scramble back into this game, because Dido, despite the fact that he's on 4 life, really has the biggest threat on the board, and he has relevant answers to whatever NobleMurloc might play in his hand. So this is one where life total is telling you the exact wrong story about who's in control of this game at the moment.
Yeah, 100%. If there was an advantage bar, it would definitely be in Dido's side. However, as I stare more at this board, I wonder if NobleMurloc should have been attacking once that Death Shadow started turning sideways. I can't do the math for you right now, and it's been a couple turns that's passed. But I just wonder if, before the other Gurmag Angler showed up, if a couple attacks in there might have done him a little bit of good.
We mentioned the Elf's 3/3s. Certainly he was going to be losing something into the 2 zombie fish each turn, but able to pile through some damage possibly at that point. Here, the Stubborn Denial going to take care of the Primal Command.
Yeah, and that was a big draw for NobleMurloc, but it just didn't matter because, like we mentioned, he's got almost every avenue locked up except for the board at the moment. And as we see more creatures are starting to come in, more pressure is being put. I really wish Murloc would use his life total more as a resource here, instead of just chump blocking all this time. And maybe I find that some of the better players in the world tend to attack more than we other people would, and I think this might have been a scenario where attacking may have been better, but again, I have not done the math or the scenario check to figure that one out.
You see Dido getting aggressive with the 1 zombie fish, and that was because of the draw of Fatal Push. That's essentially acting as the defender that he gave up with Gurmag Angler, because he can push one of the creatures on the other side. Plus, he had the Snapcaster in hand. Now we're going to see the Snapcaster K-Command combination, and this is now threatening to not trade profitably necessarily, but he could double block if NobleMurloc wants to somehow get aggressive now, and that push is going to lock this one up.
Well, yeah, not only did NobleMurloc get his whole turn time walked, and his Dryad Arbor taken out. Now Dido's drawn another push that all he's waiting for is some way to activate it. And then this is going to be a huge blowout if he makes this double block.
He's going to make sure he gets something for his time with the triple block.
He's definitely stuck that Battlesphere there, and it's not going to end out pretty well for him. Because we were looking for a way to activate these pushes, and there they are. And then this board is just empty at this point.
And you have plenty of mana up for both Stubborn Denial and for the Stroke. And I think this one is over.
Yeah, we can lock this one up and call it a day.
So NobleMurloc with his mean green machine came close, but ultimately it looks like the efficiency of the Grixis Death Shadow list is going to be enough. And there's the Stroke on the one backdoor play that we thought Mean Green Machine may have. But the big Walking Ballista is going to go down to the stroke, and that's going to be the official concession here in round 3. Sean Seacrease joined by Ryan Steiner, Visquis87. He plays for Team Fire, and of course by TheSaintDoom, our league founder and the one who brings you the forecast of Doom before each and every round. Doom, you just watched it from the sideline. That was a pretty brutal beating handed out by Grixis Death Shadow.
That really was, and unfortunately I now have to press this button.
Yes, please
Team
raise
Fire
that total.
is now
With
winning the
lots of
week
update.
7-6.
Well, if we learned anything from the first half of the season, it was that this is going to be close down to the wire.
Absolutely, every single week's been close, and I keep recapping it every week. But it was week 1 6-4, week 2 6-4, week 3 5-5, week 4 6-4, week 5 7-3, week 6 5-5. That has been how close these weeks have been. And look at this right now, week number 7, Team Fire is technically up 2-1, which is unbelievable.
Ryan,
unacceptable.
You'll get a chance to answer in round 4 as Sodek on Blue Dredge. Blue Dredge. I'm interested to see how differently this plays than archetypal Dredge here in Modern, and we'll find out when he takes on Garrett Martin on Abzan Company in just a moment. But Ryan, as you watch that match play out, your team, Team Fire, obviously getting the win. What stood out in your mind? Was this just a lopsided matchup from the get-go? It wasn't just good draws that we saw from Dido. It was that every interaction along the way seemed to be, whether it was mana positive, tempo positive, or just board dominating positive, everything landed in Team Fire's camp with that matchup.
Oh, 100%. It was definitely a masterclass showing of what a master can do. Not only was the fact that the matchup was lopsided a little bit in Dido's favor, but he made no mistakes, he made no errors, and he gave no room for NobleMurloc to even try and catch back up in this game. Everything was done with high-powered precision, and there was just no chance.
You like what you saw from Grixis Death Shadow? You've got a chance to pick up those cards from Card Hoarder. They help the Modern Streamers League load up each time new decks are brought to bear here on the MSL. And if you're going to play in paper, well, Card Kingdom has you covered as well. The next time you want to make a change, maybe it's to the sideboard, maybe it's to your entire 75, Card Kingdom. They'll get them to you on time, and you're going to get some of the best prices around. Check them out, Card Kingdom and Card Hoarder, helping us make the Modern Streamers League happen. Round 4 between Abzan Company and Blue Dredge is up next with the forecast of Doom. This is the Modern Streamers League.
Welcome back to the Forecast of Doom. We have Garrett Martin on Abzan Company against Sodek on his blue Dredge. This is a matchup I have played a lot. So many times. Always from the Abzan Company side. Now, there's this unique Abzan Company list running Kitchen Finks, which I've played this a lot, so I'm gonna try to focus just on that end, is a hugely favorable against Dredge. The reason being is a Devoted Druid combo is faster than Dredge. It also requires Dredge to react to it, because Garrett has a turn 3 kill. That's decently consistent. All Sodek has to answer that turn 3 kill game 1 is Conflagrates, and that's only if he's on the play. Or if he has a really, really great start on the draw. But even if Sodek Conflagrates the Devoted Druid that Garrett Martin has, assuming he doesn't have a Giver to protect it, there's a Kitchen Finks there. So the Vizier that Garrett has ready to go Infinite Life can all of a sudden be easily transitioned to Infinite Life, and Sodek cannot beat Infinite Life. To make things even worse for Sodek, Garrett runs Scavenging Ooze, and Scavenging Ooze is an absolute nightmare. So let's say Sodek manages to handle the Devoted Druid combo. Let's say he manages to handle the Kitchen Finks combo, somehow plows right through it, right? No big deal. Well, now there's a Scavenging Ooze in play, and let's say Garrett's at 6 or 7 mana at this point, maybe a mana dork. A Scavenging Ooze hitting the table, becoming a giant threat very quickly while eating both graveyards is something Sodek's going to have a real hard time to handle. Post-board, Sodek gets a little bit more even. He's got Lightning Axe, Thoughtseize, Dark Blast. He's got some ways to fight through this Devoted Druid combo. However, Garrett is so favored game 1, and all he has to do is take one more game once they do even up a little bit between 2 and 3, that I'm going to put Garrett, Martin, and Abzan Company as heavily favored. But that said, Sodek is the best Dredge player in the world, so if anyone can do it, he can. So that's my Forecast of Doom. Let's see how it all plays out.
Round 4, Night 1, Week 7, the Modern Streamers League. Sean Sacres along with Visquis87, Ryan Steiner. Ryan, this match alone won't be the referendum on whether Dredge is playable in a post-Faithless Looting world, because we see how advantaged the matchup is for Garrett Martin already. But I think it's going to start the conversation. We'll watch this from Garrett Martin's side. You heard SaintDoom in the Forecast of Doom massively favored by all accounts when you look at the paper rundown. I would have to imagine you're pretty happy with Team Fire's seat in this matchup.
I am extremely happy with this hand right here. This hand is complete gas. Oh,
we'll
man.
See, as Garrett Martin looks to even have the play here in game 1, knowing that you're going to, or no, he's not going to have the play. Excuse me. I misread how that was going to unfold. But Garrett Martin still massively advantaged. He's going to take the mana lead. That would be more important in some other matchups. Dredge, of course, famous for not using the converted mana cost on its spells in order to do what it wants to do. But we talked about the turn 3 inevitability with SaintDoom leading into this, and that hand has already been assembled, it seems, for Garrett.
Oh, indeed. The only thing we're currently missing is just some way to, go infinite. But we've got time for the most part, and we'll see where it kind of heads off to here, because we've already got the infinite mana combo set up for turn 3. We've got 2 more draw steps to try and find something amazing, but Kitchen Finks will provide us so much time, as was talked about before. This is a beautiful hand here from Garrett. I think the only way that Sodek can come at him from this hand is to go fast, and a Narcomoebe is not enough at this point. We would have hoped to seen like a Prized Amalgam already in play, maybe with a Bloodghast of some sorts. But the Faceless Looting, taken out of this deck, cut a lot of fire, a lot of speed out of the ability for Dredge. We do see the blue part coming into play with the Tome Scour. Tome Scour is really good at what it does, but it is not a replacement. But it does a fantastic job at putting 5 cards into the graveyard. As we're looking to see a lot of cards jump in there at this moment, but still nothing to come at it but just a 1/1 attack. Here's your poke.
We do see the Conflagrate in the graveyard right now for Sodek, and SaintDoom talked about that being an out. in his forecast of doom for this matchup. But I think one of the things that I like most about Garrett Martin's deck and these decks in general is sort of the E plan, if you will, of putting a bunch of mana dorks on the board and then using them to get on the Gavity Township gas pedal. I think it's one of the underrated backdoors in a deck like this that has so many angles it can play. And here we see some of those big mana opportunities with Court of Calling ready to go.
Oh yeah, we did the math. We had 2 draw steps to find it, and we got it. We're just gonna see a big giant. I wonder if he's gonna go for the what is this? Ranger Vios to go get the Walking Ballista. Oh, this is a pretty sweet play here. Yeah, this is one way of going about it. I've never seen this way. This one's a neat one. So now we're gonna make infinite mana after getting the Ranger Vios to get the Walking Ballista, and then we're just gonna make a very, very large Walking Ballista here, and this should do it. There's a concession. That was pretty neat. I've never seen the Ranger go and get the Walking Ballista. That's a first for me.
Well, once you have infinite mana, Court of Calling in this deck functions essentially as demonic tutor. It'll let you get whatever you want.
Oh, yes, indeed. Whatever you want. It does all kinds of things. Like, there could have been a weird play where he could have gotten the Shalai and, like, pumped up this team indefinitely and then just swang in. But, you know, the Ranger to go get the Walking Ballista is really, really cool.
So what are you looking at out of the sideboard? Is the matchup so lopsided that you just want to stay efficient and focused if you're Garrett? Or do you look at trying to interact with the graveyard on some level just because of the bonus points it'll get you in the matchup? Not that you need them.
Yeah, unfortunately, like, the opportunity to interact with the graveyard is slim because our options are low. So what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and interact with the removal ability from Dredge and try and focus on fighting that angle while being as efficient as possible as we can with our creatures and trying to go fast with our combo. Obviously, as mentioned before, we can't stop, you know, the Dredge player can barely stop the turn 3 win if we have it. So we're going to try to find ways to kind of protect our creatures. That's why you're seeing a Burning Forge Tender come in here to save from Conflagrate or even Lightning Axe. And then maybe, I think those Eldritch Evolutions came in from the side as well to be able to find certain things that we may need, like the Ranger, going from a 1-drop into the Ranger to be able to stop any kind of removal spells as well. So we're definitely looking to get leaner, definitely meaner, and we're going to try and, you know, go faster than this Dredge deck is capable of doing.
Now, Ryan, I know you'll understand where I'm going with this because you're a huge college football fan. In Magic, especially in the Modern Streamers League, 1 match win is worth just 1. You don't get style points or AP top 25 votes for running up the score. And it certainly seems that Garrett's in a position where if he wanted to, he could just take a couple of grandstand laps in this matchup. But it's just going to be 1 win if he can bring it home for Team Fire. Is that going to be good enough, or would you like to be awarded more wins than that based on how dominant this matchup is?
No, I'm just going to take my win, and I'm going to be happy about it because we can't let Ice do anything good in this league.
All right, you can feel free to @ Ryan. He's an Alabama football fan, so they struggled this week, giving up 10 whole points.
You got to roll that Tide all the way out the door, man.
Gotta be tough. Garrett Martin waiting as he'll see Sodek on blue Dredge take the play again. In most matchups, this would be a scary thought to let your Dredge opponent go first twice, but this matchup so favored, as we mentioned, that Garrett feels like he's got that advantage already. And here we see the Eldritch Evolution in hand. We see Devoted Druid ×2. He's even got the Scavenging Ooze already. Many of the pieces that you would want have already arrived.
Yeah, and one thing we notice, we see our 3rd 1-land keep of this league today. And this time it actually paid off, where Garrett did draw his Razorverge Thicket, which is the card he was missing was a land, because this hand is another piece of gas. This is all fire. We're going to see a turn 2 Druid into the turn 3 Vizier into a Scavenging Ooze that can infinitely get rid of our opponent's graveyard. This is a turn 3 kill right here.
Now, 1 Dark Blast, a possibility for Sodek out of the sideboard. We mentioned the Lightning Axes as well, so we'll see if Sodek has a chance to interact on board. We see Vizier of Remedies already in hand, and this is quickly looking like it's a huge advantage for the Abzan company list.
Well, indeed, if there is no interaction here, we're definitely going to see just a complete takeover. We're going to see a Conflagrate here, which is a good piece of interaction. But if there was no interaction, we'd see what happened with me and SaintDoom, where I didn't interact with his things and he just went off. I don't think this is a scenario of where if, for instance, if the plays were switched as far as like who went first or second, it would have mattered because my interaction was a turn behind. But we're definitely going to see another follow-up. That was a really good draw of the Giver Runes. Now we've got backup against any kind of removal spells, so we're just looking to untap and probably just take the game again. So that Conflagrate was only just a one-turn stall for Garrett, and Garrett's going to come back again even harder because he's got this Giver Runes now.
The Eldritch Evolution in hand as well as the Scavenging Ooze. So he's got options on which way he'd like to go. The 0 remedies can come down. That means infinite mana. That means Scavenging Ooze can eat up everything that it so desires.
Yeah, and here we go. It's just, racing off.
Runes, too.
Yeah, Giver Rune's going to block it. It looks like Sodek's already F6 and said, I'm ready. Let me have it. Show me if you've got it. And unfortunately, he's got it in the form of one of the most annoying things Sodek can see. But he may. We're going to see the Eldritch Evolution. Okay, we're just going to go for the win here. Yeah, we're going to do the same thing we saw game 1, which is super neat. We're going to go get the Ranger. The Ranger's going to go get the Walking Ballista, and the Walking Ballista is going to go really big to the face.
And that is going to do it. It's going to be Garrett Martin. He was touted as heavily favored in this matchup, and he did not falter in a heavily favorable matchup as Abzan Company takes down Blue Dredge. SaintDoom, get ready to use your finger on the same button again because
don't want to do it.
Bring it up. You got to bring it up.
Don't want to do it.
There it goes. Make it 7.
Up one more time as Team Fire gets on the board again. One match left this evening. That's going to be in round 5. But right now, Team Fire is on a roll. The win by Garrett Martin. They also picked up Dido's Death Shadow victory. Add that to Hellcat's victory. Cat Light with Spirits. And it's the lone win by TheSaintDoom tonight for Team Ice, at least through our first 4 rounds. A chance for Team Ice to get one more coming up next. GhostxEmpire, Bant Spaghetti, Kappolo on Ponza Karn. SaintDoom, you were looking at that matchup, and you did a great job of giving, I thought, unbiased analysis in the forecast of Doom. But that had to be a tough draw once you saw the deck list that both players turned in for weeks 6 and 7 in the Modern Streamers League.
It absolutely was. As somebody, like I said in the forecast, I played a lot of Abzan Company. Garrett and I have chatted a lot about Devoted Druid Finks specifically. We're in the Discord together as mods. Dredge is one of our absolutely best matchups. In fact, I might even go so far to say as it is the best matchup. I think in like 20 matchups, I've lost to it exactly once, and in both games, I mulled to 4. So, I mean, it is that good of a matchup. And we actually have, anyone's curious, join the Discord. We actually have spreadsheets. We keep track of all the match wins in leagues, and you can actually see what the actual win rate is. I'm just blowing steam right now off the top of my head, but we actually have all of that data in the Discord.
That's one of the great things to look at is how detailed SaintDoom and his team keep track of that data. It's one thing to try and pull a Jedi mind trick on your opponent. It's a whole nother thing when you try and convince yourself of a matchup being good when it's actually not. And that hard data they keep really does a great job of keeping those advantageous matchups detailed in the correct way. Ryan, is your team going to be able to take 4 here on one night? Do you like the matchup with Ponza Karn in the hands of Kappolo 42 against GhostxEmpire's Bant Spaghetti list, as he calls it?
The matchup looks favorable, to which then leads me to the question of, Mike, are you going to carry the team with the lone win today? And when you're done carrying the team, do you think they should give you some ice for that back that you're putting them on? Because this should be, from my side of perspective, if I'm going to forecast here, this should be a clean 4-1 today. I think this is a great matchup. We're going to play Land Destruction against, Eldrazi Temple. And I think that's absolutely perfect.
Yes, jumping to the forecast of Doom in just a second. This is a situation where I will not be surprised if I am the only win in Team Ice. I hope I'm not. I hope GhostxEmpire pulls another miracle through like he did week 1 when he beat Cat Light when she was on Is It Phoenix and he was on Dredge. He lost that. I'm sorry. I'm thinking the wrong thing. Yeah, he lost that. Never mind. We are done for. Come on, Ghost. Win this for us.
We'll see if GhostX can pick up the victory. Coming up next, special thanks to Ghost and Kappolo anyway. Scheduled for Wednesday night, there was a scheduling small emergency. They graciously slid forward to join us this evening, and we'll look forward to that matchup brought to you by Card Kingdom and Card Hoarder as the last round of night 1 of week 7 of the Modern Streamers League comes up next.
Welcome back to the last forecast of Doom of the night. Right now, Team Fire is on a tear, 3 in a row, which is just, come on, Team Ice, we got to pick this up. Unfortunately, however, this is another bad matchup for Team Ice. Kappolo on his Gruul Ponza list against GhostxEmpire and Bant Eldrazi. Both players are undefeated this grouping since the break. Both of them are 1-0 going into each other with these particular deck lists. However, I was looking over the mana bases because whenever you're playing against a Ponza deck, that's really what you want to focus on. GhostxEmpire has a Forest of Plains and an Island, but I don't see a basic waste there, which means he's going to really struggle under a Blood Moon. I don't think he can beat a Blood Moon because without Reality Smasher, I just don't really see a way he can win this game. Now, someone might say, oh, Swords, Batterskull, they'll absolutely run away with this game. Except this Ponza list runs Pillage, which doesn't just pull a Stone Rain, it also pulls a Shatter and destroys an artifact. I think that particular card puts this matchup over the edge for Ponza. Make Outers even worse. The real advantage GhostxEmpire has is that Smasher is really big, but Inferno Titan is actually just a little bit bigger. This is going to be a rough matchup for Bant Eldrazi, but as we saw last week, he can steal wins. A fast turn 2 Thought Knot Seer, taking a Blood Moon, a turn 3 Reality Smasher, swinging for 9, can get there really, really quick. So that's my forecast of Doom. I think Ponza is favored here, but Eldrazi can always surprise us. Let's see how it all plays out.
Thank you, Mike, for the forecast of Doom before round 5 here on night 1 of week 7 of the Modern Streamers League. Sean Secrease one more time with Visquis87, Ryan Steiner. Ryan, thanks for being with us here throughout the evening. Team Fire has been hot here in the last 3 rounds. We heard SaintDoom mention it, 3 wins in a row. Can the Ponza deck get there? This is always a deck that looks tremendous on paper, and we see Kappolo 42 right now dealing with some mulligan issues, but sometimes it doesn't come together with its draws and can feel very lopsided depending on which side of the deck you have. If things go well, should be a good matchup.
Yeah, and definitely we're seeing one of the better half sides of this deck. And look at Kappolo. He's like, I got this. Yeah, with the turn 2 Blood Moon that's about to happen, things are looking real strong here with no play from GhostxEmpire. This Blood Moon is going to be fantastic here. This is a good start for Kappolo.
Already just the basic forest and good heads-up fetch by GhostX. Those fetch lands lose their text once that Blood Moon comes down. The ramp package not fully in effect yet, but the value package with Tireless Tracker going to get to work. And that Inferno Titan, I remember turning that sideways many times during, what was it, M10 and M11 during the Titan Age. And it is just so devastating with the free arc lightning that's attached to it. If Kappolo 42 can find his ramp here, this game is going to be over in a hurry.
Oh, indeed. This game's probably locked up here with Acidic Slime coming down next turn. The only way for GhostxEmpire to really pull this game out, well, here's a Batter Skull, was to go like hardcore smash. He had to get down a Thought Knot Seer ASAP. He had to get down a Smasher ASAP. A Noble Hierarch would have been great, but with this pillage going after, he can't cast that yet, can he? No. So we're probably just going to Acidic Slime down this Batter Skull, and we're going to attack in for the with the tracker again, and things are just kind of rolling downhill for our Smasher opponent.
Right now, Kappolo looking at the trigger off the land. That'll give him the opportunity for more cards. He's highlighting his plan for us. And just blowing kisses to blowing up the Batter Skull with the Acidic Slime. Acidic Slime doesn't look like much. A 2/2 Death Toucher for 5, but it's the flexibility that it gives you. It can blow up about anything under the sun, not named Planeswalker, and it is one of the real sort of cleanup mechanisms that this deck has.
Oh, indeed. We're definitely... It's going to be fantastic here, just as Kappolo has already demonstrated to us. It is going to blow up whatever it wants. I wouldn't be surprised if Ghost just goes ahead and concedes after this Acidic Slime blows up this Batter Skull. It's going to be beautiful. We're going to see fireworks and all kinds of crazy things that happen. This is going to be a wonderful turn here if when it finally decides to happen.
So Kappolo picks up his opportunity to advance his card advantage board with the clue, and now the trigger, and there goes the Batter Skull.
One big giant germ down.
Ancient Stirrings. This will give him an opportunity for some outs if he's just looking for raw mana. Of course, unless he finds something that's going to give him a 2-mana boost, so to speak, it's going to end up mana neutral.
Currently, I think what I'm trying to think of outs, I think of like Drowner of Hopes being an out here. Thought Knot Seer is kind of just right now. Reality Smasher, we're not in a racing situation because Acidic Slime is going to stop this. So currently, like Drowner of Hope to be able to clog up the board is going to be one of the only way outs that I can think of off the top of my head. But, with another Pillage to take out the basic forest, and we still don't even have a blue mana to put in for Drowner of Hopes, things are looking super, super grim.
An attack would have won it again for Kappolo. Just the trigger off of Inferno Titan would have likely been enough as well. And game 1 goes to Ponza and Team Fire. This matchup already pretty good, we mentioned, Ryan, but when you want to shut down a deck that is potentially as explosive as what Ghost X has, what are the considerations now when you look at the sideboard?
It's probably just submit deck. We're going to go ahead and take out a couple of Trinispheres, and we're just going to fill it with big giant dummies. I don't see much of any changes. He could definitely bring in these Angers to counteract the early game. But quite frankly here, mostly he can just hit Submit deck, and he's still in a good spot. But we are going to shear up a little bit of our holes and just slam the door down. Troper Orb, be able to stop Thought-Knot Seer, and then along with the Drowner of Hopes to clog the board. And then we saw a little bit of Angers come in to kind of, eat the board away from all the dummies that might come in early, like the Noble Hierarchs and I think he plays a Sky Spawner as well. So just to empty that off the board is pretty good.
Taking a quick look over the deck for Ghost X, Noble Hierarch, Reality Smasher, Thought-Knot, Stoneforge, Sky Spawner, 2 of, 3 Drowner of Hope, and 4 Eldrazi Displacer. So that's the Bant effect of this Bant spaghetti, if you will, for GhostxEmpire. So a quick start here with the Elf. Now we're going to be able to use the mana advancement as you see the 1 mana enchantment lying in hand along with whatever land Kappolo 42 would like to use.
Yeah, we're definitely going to see this Utopia Sprawl Arbor Elf little combo, as we can call it, take over a large portion of the mana here. And we're probably going to see a Blood Moon to come down with it as well to shut everything down. And then we're hoping to, just kind of empty this board up is what it is and get our engine rolling, shall we say.
Wow, Chandra Awakened Inferno. That was one that I saw on the deck list originally and thought, I hope we get to see it in action tonight. It's in hand already and not too far away with the Arbor Elf doing its thing. In fact, we might even be able to see that coming up next turn, depending on what the draw is for Kappolo.
Indeed, yeah, that was kind of one of the engines we were looking for. I think we're seeing a missed opportunity of playing another Arbor Elf, possibly. I don't really know, but we're going to move on. Yeah, we're whoa, wow, that Thali is going to slow things down a little bit more. But wow, nice draw of Karn here to interact a little bit. And one thing we did notice that was changed a little bit. Typically with Karn in here, you don't want to. You've got all these sideboard artifacts that you can go get. One thing we saw Kappolo go ahead and do was bring the Troper Orb into play, because it's very unlikely that you're going to go and get Troper Orb with Karn, because you have so many better targets. And Troper Orb is good in the matchup, and it's good early. So having it inside your deck is actually better because the potential of a turn 2 Troper Orb is better than trying to get it out of Karn. So we definitely did see him bring that in, and now we see the Arbor Elf finally hitting onto the board here.
Yeah, that could be a big miss, but as it turned out with the Thalia, he wouldn't have been able to, I don't think, ramp into the Chandra that turn anyway. So we'll see if he elects to bring it down on the next turn. The Eldrazi Displacer, an interesting combination as it can hook up with Stoneforge Mystic in the future, but Stoneforge Mystic going for the sort of feast and famine. And this is going to be a pretty hard hit, but I think Kappolo's got the tools to deal with this.
Well, this is going to get a little weird here. So the sword just gave the Displacer Prog deck for the most part, and then the sword's going to start untapping all the lands, which is going to let this Displacer kind of play with some weird things at some point in this game if we ever find the mana through this Blood Moon, though. Stoneforge down. What are we getting? A Batterskull here? Yeah, here's the Batterskull.
Displacer with the sword on it, I believe, is a 5/5. So that's going to be an entirely different animal. If he wants to use the Chandra, it's going to only be able to attack it rather than just clean the board across the way and remain in play.
Yeah, we definitely see a back foot here, and it's possibly that the ability to not put Karn in last turn because the Arbor Elf didn't make it in the turn before kind of stopped this, would have stopped this sword being activated. So I'm interested to see if that might have just, downsloped the game for him.
We'll see what he gets off of the clue. Just another land. And now he's going to pick his mode on Chandra. I have to imagine he would go after the Displacer here. No, he's going to just wipe the board instead of everything else and make it suited up Displacer versus the Tracker. Interesting.
Yeah, we wanted to clean the board up and hope that we can hit some giant like Titan here to just manhandle this Displacer.
Yeah, and it also takes a turn off the clock if GhostX wants to go for the Chandra, which he will.
Yeah, Chandra left there on its own could be a problem. Batterskull joining the battlefield is harsh. Well, here's a Glorybringer, but it's not going to be enough, sadly. We're going to get rid of the token on the attack. Displacer's still a 5/5, so we might see a block with the tracker. We might actually go all in here and attack. I don't know whether he'll attack with both this turn.
Bringer's still a fantastically disruptive and quick clock.
Yeah, actually, we're not going to see attack because afterwards he'll equip over to the Displacer, which he's kind of overlooking at this moment. So we'll definitely see... We could see the attack with the Glorybringer take down the Germ, or we're just going to see a double hold back.
So Kappolo, with maybe one slight misstep, missing the tracker put in, or missing the Arbor Elf put in early in the game, and now we'll have to see how he wants to handle this situation.
Yeah.
To take 5.
It definitely could have even been worse if you swing in with the Glorybringer, because then you're, remember, the sword is pro-green, and if you would just equip the Batterskull straight over, we would have lost there. So...
Now the Batterskull goes on to the Eldrazi Displacer.
That was a draw, and then maybe even possibly a turn too late. I think can we get this ensnaring bridge? Did we? Yeah, we can probably get a ensnaring bridge here. I think that would do us 1 mana off. Oh wow, yeah, he's definitely just short.
Now what will his choice be for Kappolo? He's going to have to use the Karn and try to think his way out of this one, even if it's giving up the Glorybringer for a turn in order to slam down that ensnaring bridge.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to see. We're going to see go get the bridge, hope in some world that Thought-Knot Seer doesn't take it away, and then we can hope to jam the bridge and hope there's no... don't remember if there's any artifact removal, white artifact removal from Ghost, and hope the bridge is enough.
The Glorybringer going to be thrown under the bus. 26 life now for Kappolo and another Displacer.
Yeah, this Blood Moon's doing work here. So we're going to get the bridge to come down. We'll see another Wooded Foothills, a Karn tick up like... No, we'll probably see another Karn tick down at some point. I don't know what he's getting here.
Be interesting to see what he thinks he has to interact here.
We're seeing I'm going to turn your Batterskull into a 5/5 to unequip it. I don't know why he did such play, but it's funny. And I'll give him some funny points for it.
Well, right now the ensnaring bridge is good as it gets with the hand empty for Kappolo. He already game 1.
Yeah, this is going to be one of those. Yep, here it is. And then Karn go gets Lattice, and then we can scoop it up here.
Blueprints. For the charity they're playing for, A21, which looks to end human trafficking around the globe. You can donate just underneath the broadcast here on the Modern Streamers League. And for Team Ice, well, they might have been cold tonight, but they're playing for a great cause and have been hot raising money for the Cancer Research Institute. Cancer Research Institute looking to end all forms of cancer everywhere around the world. What a great night tonight to kick off Week 7 of the Modern Streamers League. TheSaintDoom back with us. Great forecast tonight. Great insight. We saw almost every match play out exactly the way that you called it. And even though Team Ice took the beating tonight, I got a feeling that there's a good chance they fight back on Wednesday night, and there's just going to be more great Modern Magic.
I hope so.
I want to say that I don't know, but I think Fire might even take the next week too.
You're already looking ahead to the matchups now, Ryan. Now, you're going to be back in action on Wednesday night. Who's your opponent, and do you like your matchup for Team Fire?
So I have, I believe, Davius Maximus, Mr. Five-Color Niv Mizzet. I definitely like this matchup for me. I kind of move a little bit faster. He's got a lot of interaction, but I've got some nice little haymakers in my board, and my deck is just a big old haymaker as it is. So I'm hoping to take that one down. I feel confident that Fire can even do great things that week, even without me taking that one down if I do. So I'm definitely excited to see, Wednesday that's going to come around and see where that leads us. Hopefully, we're going to see a good old 5 clean sweep, and to put us up to 14-6. That would be fantastic.
A clean sweep, except for me. That's what you're predicting right now.
I am hoping and praying that we get that clean sweep, because I'm feeling some fire right now, like hardcore fire right now. And that.
If we have a future speechwriter who is enjoying the broadcast right now, maybe write a stirring speech for Team Ice that all be emailed ahead of Wednesday night's matchups, and TheSaintDoom can read that off to him and get him going. Great matchups coming up on Wednesday night. SaintDoom, you know what? Team Ice won the first leg of the season, 26-24. Things were 5-5 after week 6. And now, for the first time here on the second half of the season, we see one of the teams with a real lead after a 4-1 victory by Team Fire tonight. That puts them up 9-6 overall. That's a 3-match advantage heading into the second night of week 7. It should be a whole lot of fun coming up on Wednesday night.
Absolutely.
Indeed.
Some great matchups. Hey, thank you for joining us here this evening. This has been night 1 of week 7 of the Modern Streamers League. Thanks again to the Yellow Hat himself, Hall of Famer Gabriel Nassif, for hanging out with us for a while this evening. To Visquis87, Ryan, it was a lot of fun. Hopefully we'll get another chance to do this together. And TheSaintDoom, he'll look forward to having you again on Wednesday night. I'm Sean Seacrease. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. If you have a chance to support our great charities, A21 and the Cancer Research Institute, please do it. Any amount, no matter how small, helps them advance their great causes around the world. And to Card Hoarder and to Card Kingdom, we literally couldn't do it without you. You see some great tech, you can hit both of them up, whether you're IRL or online, for your next match of magic. Until Wednesday night, thanks for hanging out with us. I'm Sean Seacrease. This is the Modern Streamers League.